or welcome back to Tiny Tiger Collective. I'm Helena, and if you're new to my channel, I am a full-time academic who spends most of my days chasing a 3-year-old toddler around, and in the evenings, there's nothing I love more than to decompress from my very busy life with journals, stationaries, and all the gentle analog rituals that give me a sense of grounding and peace. This week, I've been feeling a little bit under the weather with a whisper of a cold that I think I caught from my son. I have made myself a yuzu tea that I will be sipping off camera in order to keep my throat comfortable while I share my musings about Hobonichi 2026 with all of you today. So, as many of you would already know, Hobonichi season is upon us, and as of the start of August, every single day at 11 a.m. Japan time, Hobonichi has been teasing us with a small reveal. So on August the 1st, they shared that their theme for 2026 will be the very curiously named You Love You, posed as a question. And it was accompanied by a very interesting interview with the CEO and founder of Hobonichi about what that theme means to him. And I found it really interesting that many of us from the Anglophonic West took that immediately as, oh, they're talking about self care. And when I saw the Instagram post from Hobonichi, a lot of the comments seemed to revolve around that assumption that it was about self compassion, self love. But the interview shared a little bit more cultural context on how Hobonichi as a Japanese brand is interpreting the idea of loving oneself. And they distinctly say that it's not about I love me, which they see as a quite an individualist, dare I say, Western concept of self love, but they take it as a question that's more about a collective you. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm filming this on Tuesday, which means I haven't yet seen any of the teasers for what the 2026 lineup will be. I believe the first cover reveal is actually coming tomorrow. But by the time you see this video, there would already have been multiple covers revealed. So right now, I am still in the dark and curiously waiting to see what the beautiful cover designs will be. I come in to this year's release of Hobonichi with a lot of excitement, curiosity, but at the same time, I have to admit that I'm also carrying a little bit of trepidation. After my experiences with the 2025 launch, I have a lot of unanswered questions whirling around in my mind, and I would love this opportunity to process some of this by thinking aloud with you all today. And more than any other video, this is one that I would really invite you to also share with me your thoughts, no matter how raw and unprocessed they may be, as you listen to this video. So, before I share this mix of ambivalent excitement and trepidation about Hobonichi 2026, let me tell you a little bit about my history with the brand and how I came to start using these planners. If you've been around in my channel before, you'll know that I have loved using fountain pens for over 10 years now. However, My passion for fountain pens reached a crescendo after I had my baby in 2022. And I found myself nursing, rocking him to sleep in the middle of the night, and in desperate need of calming videos to keep me occupied and awake through all of those long nights. After my son was born, I discovered incredible YouTube channels like Jet Pens and Yosaka Stationery, and I watched virtually every video they have produced, and I got back into the hobby more enthusiastically, more fervently than I ever had before. So it was around this time that I started using fountain pens more regularly that I could not go 5 minutes without hearing someone recommend Hobonichi as a planner notebook manufacturer that uses these infamous tomoe river paper that is both delicate and yet absolute workhorses when it came to holding and showing off the properties of fountain pen inks. I'm curious to hear how many of you came across Hobonichi and fountain pens, whether maybe you were someone who used Hobonichi as a planner first and then kept being told that this paper was designed to work with fountain pens and therefore got into fountain pens afterwards, or if you were like me and you were a fountain pen user and then heard about Hobonichi as a brand of planners that would match perfectly with your writing instruments of choice. So I heard about Hobonichi first around June 2023. My son wasn't quite a year old, and I finally took the leap and purchased my first Hobonichi planner, this A6 Techo Original. Because more than half the year had already passed, I really appreciated the opportunity to purchase the Spring Start book rather than the January Start so that I didn't waste 7 months of pages, but I could really dive in the moment I unboxed this book with only a couple of months at the start that I did a combination of backfilling and collaging and decorating. I really enjoyed decorating this book. I used the combination of little mind wave icon stickers as well as my Instax mini Evo prints, pictures of my son, and other little stickers and collaging papers that I had collected along the way. At the time, as my son started daycare, he was also bringing home so many finger painting creations, and I adore the opportunity to salvage a lot of those papers and stick them in this book. So, this became my daily baby journal. I have so many incredible milestones in this book, including my son's first birthday party when we marked him turning 1, also when we celebrated Christmas and summer solstice with him. And because this was a spring start, it extended into the first 3 months of 2024. And we finished the book taking him on his first overseas family vacation to Japan. This book is utterly precious to me. There are so many incredible memories inside this book, and I am so happy that I bought it and stuck with it. At the time, in mid 2023, I had no idea how big Hobonichi even was. I had heard the recommendation for their fountain pen friendly paper, and I went onto the website absolutely oblivious about all the cult following they had, especially around their limited edition cover releases. So I simply picked a cover for my book that I thought suited my aesthetic. I really love stars, constellations, all of those symbols have a very special place and a very special meaning with me, particularly with respects to my son. And so I purchased this simple black on clear blue cover, and I paired this modest cover with the Yuka Hiragi light in the distance cover on cover, which I kept as the centerpiece of this cover design. So, having become a Hobonichi convert through almost a year of dedicated use in this book, by the end of March 2024, when I was filling out the last pages of this A6 techo, I pretty much became head over heels, passionately dedicated to Hobonichi. And so it worked out perfectly that as I finished up my first techo, I found myself in Japan for our family vacation, where I was able to purchase this Hobonichi cousin also in the spring start directly from Hobonichi's flagship store, Tobichi, located in Tokyo. In the months leading up to migrating into this book, I watched every single video I could find about how other content creators use their Hobonichi cousins. And I was completely enthralled by the idea of keeping this book. I was excited to decorate my monthly spreads and write down the highlights of what I got up to day by day before summarizing at the end of each month all the things that I was celebrating, learning, releasing, welcoming, and inspired by. The stunning vertical weekly spreads were places where I kept the memories of all the incredible things we got up to, starting with our vacation in Japan, while tracking my sleep, my reading, watching, and listening along the column on the left hand side. I also, for a little while, tracked the weather, the minimum and maximum temperatures, as well as an icon that I drew for whether it was rainy, sunny, cloudy. And I tracked my daily steps at the bottom of each day's column as well. I was so excited to finally have a full day to a page spreads where I had the space to journal out everything that I was doing, thinking, and feeling, including the beautiful memories, such as this day when I took our son to his first cat cafe. It took me a little while to get used to having all this space after coming from an A6 Techo half the size. But after a few weeks, my hand adapted to the extra stamina and strength I needed to do daily journaling. And this book, starting from April 2024 through to the first 3 months of this year in 2025, it has been a constant companion. So, August 2024 last year was the very first year that I actually followed in real time a launch for Hobonichi as a fan. When I discovered Hobonichi, it was already July 2023, so I missed the 2023 launch period for both the start of the year as well as for spring. When I went to Tokyo, it was already March 2024, And it was very quiet in the store. I was probably there with three other shoppers. And again, I missed all of the hype around the new releases. By the way, this A5 cover is Yumi Kitakishi, one of my favorites, if you've been to my channel before. But this cover that you might recognize as the letter A5 cover was one that I bought in the 2025 launch. While I was at Tobichi, I actually purchased a Mina Pahonen cover, but I quickly found that it was a bit too bulky with my intent of using this as an all-in-one planner that I had hoped to be able to carry to and from work and home. So in last year's release, when the Yumi Kitagishi A5 cover came out, I swapped my cousin into this book for the remainder of the year. Into this cover for the remainder of the year. Because in many ways, having an all-in-one system didn't work out very well for me. And it felt like a bit of a chaotic, jumbled mess where I was planning my work tasks, household chores, alongside beautiful family memories. And it was incredibly difficult to sort through and review all of the treasured experiences that I wanted to keep while having to sift through pages and pages where I was venting about stressful periods at work. In 2025, I decided that I was going to move to a multi book system, compartmentalizing a dedicated journal ecosystem where I had individual books for all the different areas of my life. And that's why last year, being my first true Hobonichi launch as a fan, I picked up my first ever Hobonichi weeks. First in the Unsoro Bijitsukai cover that I used for work, and the Yumi Kitagishi Beautiful Wallpaper weeks that I used as a health and well-being planner. And then I picked up another A6 Techo, the Keiko Shibata, Mr. and Mrs. Inoue Bus Management as a new toddler journal. So I could not keep all of my memories in one big book along with everything else I was doing, but go back, just like how I fell in love with Hobonichi, to a dedicated daily toddler journal. So on this channel, I have talked about how my four books at the start of the year worked out for me. And I won't repeat a lot of those reflections. If you're curious, you can watch my mid-year Techo Kaigi as well as my quarter one Techo Kaigi, which I'll link in the description below. Today, I actually wanted to reflect with you about my very mixed, messy feelings around Hobonichi. So, while this time last year, I experienced my first ever Hobonichi launch in real time, I also didn't have this YouTube channel, nor did I have a in-person journaling or fountain pen community that I could share my excitement with. And I was grateful to have many beautiful stationery channels that I doggedly followed and commented on so that I felt like I could have connection to other people who loved Hobonichi as much as I did. I'd be lying if I didn't say that it was a bit of a lonely process for me. And if you experienced the 2025 Hobonichi launch last year, then you would know that there was quite a lot of drama. So Hobonichi spends all of August, day by day, teasing something about the new lineup. So On one day, it might be simply an introduction to new users about how the different book formats and sizes and languages work. But then on other days, they start teasing the different cover designs that they have commissioned from various artists all over Japan. Every day, I would go to the Hobonichi website, I would refresh, and I would see what the new teasers were. Then, as we approached the sale day of September the 1st, I watched the Hobonichi live stream that they do in English. And I also watched Yoseka Stationery's live stream, where all of their staff members stay in the store late at night. Last year, I believe they created quite a fun game where they ranked all of the covers that had been announced via B, A, S tier and talked about what they felt about each of those covers. And it certainly helped me feel a little bit less alone. However, when the sale period actually began on September the 1st, there were a lot of issues with the website, the server, and with scalpers. So it appears that fans were not the only people who realized that Hobonichi had gained quite a passionate cult following in recent years. As soon as the sale began, the website was flooded and subsequently crashed by what we now look back and can say were probably scalping bots who bought up multiple covers so that within minutes they were marked as sold out on the Hobonichi website. And then after a few minutes, a lot of people couldn't even access the website because the server had completely crashed. Fortunately for me, unlike my dear friends in the US, in Australia, it was only 1 p.m. on Sunday for us. And so I wasn't staying up late at night or waking up in the early hours of the morning to try to make my purchase. I remember going to the website and realizing, oh, the beautiful wallpaper that I had my eye on, it was already sold out. Paddington Bear Weeks, I think, was sold out even sooner. At that time, I remember feeling quite heartened. So my first emotional reaction was of, oh wow, I'm not the only one who loves Hobonichi. I'm not alone after all. And I felt actually really happy for the company that so many people loved it. Of course, at that time, I had no idea that they were bots buying up the covers and the planners. I genuinely thought that they had just become so popular that they were selling out within minutes. And then the website crashed and I wasn't able to access any of the items. I wasn't able to load my shopping cart. So I remember sort of checking in every hour or so, but when I realized that the server issues really were sticking, I left it and we took our son out. We had a beautiful afternoon tea. And it wasn't until 4 or 5 o'clock later that afternoon where I realized, also by following all the people who were sharing these experiences on the Hobonichi subreddit, that they had identified people were buying up all the covers. There were already people listing those covers on eBay for 10 times what they were selling for on Hobonichi. So Hobonichi cracked down on that, cancelled a lot of what were the obvious bots, and all of a sudden the website was back up, the stock was back online, and finally around 5:30 that afternoon I was able to check out. So afterwards, when I heard about all the people who had stayed up through the night, who had lost lots of sleep, lots of peace because of that experience, I definitely consider myself beyond lucky. None of the items that I wanted were sold out in the end, and I was able to get everything that I had my eyes on, including the Yumi Kitagishi A5 cover for my cousin, as well as the beautiful wallpaper Weeks. So, having survived the website crashes, I was slightly disappointed to find that although in 2023 I was able to purchase my very first A6 Techo in Japanese yen, Hobonichi seemed to have partnered with a new international trading company. That meant that I had to register myself as shopping from Australia. And when I purchased this lineup for 2025, I had to purchase it in Australian dollars, but the currency conversion was not very favorable at all. And it was maybe a good 5% to 10% more than what it costs if I was simply allowed to purchase it in Japanese yen using a international travel credit card that I own. So that added a little bit of extra cost. Of course, in 2024, I had the benefit of going straight to Japan and purchasing this A5 cousin book, as well as some other accessories and my cover there in the store itself. And again, that was at a historically favorable exchange rate. And I picked up this book for peanuts compared to how much I had to spend. So I did go back and check my receipts before I started filming this video so I could give you some accurate numbers. I can't compare like with like because this simple black on clear blue cover is definitely part of their range that's considered a step down from their artist design limited edition covers. So they are offered at a lower rate. But when I purchased this A6 Techo with the cover, this book, which charged me in Japanese yen, and I was able to pay using my international no fee credit card, this item ended up being 45 Australian dollars, not including shipping, and at that time, a $5 administration fee that they charged for packing international orders. The Yuka Hiragi cover on cover added $5 to the overall price, right? So all up, this was $50 for the cover, the book, and the cover on cover. $50 Australian. Now, come end of 2024, when I purchased my next toddler book with an A6 Techo, the Keiko Shibata cover, and a clear cover on cover, this was $43 for the Keiko Shibata, $32 for the Techo itself. So we're up to $75 plus an extra $6 for this cover on cover. So I went from spending $50 to over $80 in just the span of a year and 2 months. And as if that wasn't bad enough, about 2 days after I made my order, Hobonichi announced that there was an error in their pricing somehow, and they didn't update the prices on their website to reflect a new price increase that they had reportedly intended all along for this 2025 launch. So again, this was 3-4 days after the website had all its crashing issues, had all its stock disappear because of the scalper bots, that people actually who were quite calm had left the website for a few days to give Hobonichi the time and the grace to fix their launch issues before coming back 3-4 days later to see what items were left in stock that they could purchase. And they were then slapped with an extra price increase, which ranged anything from a few dollars added on to some of these books. I think maybe the weeks may have gone up by $2 or $3 at most. But some people also wanted their Jetstream ballpoint pen refills, and they almost doubled in price from $1 to $1.99. So a lot of people who had done what they thought was the healthy thing, which was leave it for a few days rather than refreshing every hour, they felt like they were punished for having come back and found that their entire orders were anything from 10 to 20% more expensive. And that would be okay if it ended there. But of course, as many of you who might be Hobonichi fans already know, once people received their highly sought after and hard won orders, they found that the Tomoe River paper had a lot of issues this year for the very first time. Now, I do hear a lot of people complain that it's a fault with a new Tomoe River Sanzen paper, and they extol the benefits and the performance of the old Tomoe River paper that Hobonichi used to use. But I'm here to tell you, I don't think it's got to do with Sanzen. Yes, maybe Sanzen as a company, but it's not about the new paper formulation. Because as a relatively new fan of Hobonichi, in July 2023, when I purchased this Spring Start A6 Techo, it had already moved to the Sanzen paper. So I have only ever used the Sanzen paper because that year, I believe the only Hobonichi planners that contained the old paper were the Hobonichi weeks. And in 2023, I didn't have any intention of using a week's planner. So I was happy to be introduced to the company through their new Sansan paper. Of course, come 2024, the spring start, this was again the Sansan paper, and I had absolutely no problems journaling in my Hobonichi cousin for a year. So it wasn't until the 2025 lineup that I realized that there were significant quality control issues with paper performance and inconsistency. These three books that I purchased in 2025 have been quite different. So I was happy to find that my A6 Techo that I'm using as a daily toddler journal has not suffered the worst of the paper quality issues at all. Yes, there are some pages in which my fountain pen line feel oh so slightly broader than others, but honestly, that variation is hard to tell if it's the paper or if it might be simply because the ink has started to run a little bit low in my fountain pen. So the variation is something that I have been more than comfortable living with in my A6 Techo this year. Where I found the worst paper quality issues were in my two Hobonichi weeks. And it really was a shame because I never saw myself as a Hobonichi weeks user until I spent a year following incredible content creators like Alison from Little Coco Studio, whose detailed walkthrough of her health and well-being planner inspired me to follow in her exact steps and purchase a dedicated weeks for my health and well-being planning. And while I am so thankful to have had this journal as a partner for my mental health healing and recovery, the paper issues have really been such a nightmare to deal with. So let me show you an example of the paper differences. This is a page here in early August of my work, Hobonichi Weeks, where I think the paper is pretty much performing as what I'm used to with Tomoe River, even in the Sanzen. So I journal in this book with my Sailor Progia Slim in a medium fine. So with this fountain pen in Dragon Palace and inked up with Diamine Celadon Cat, an ink that I've really had no other problems with, nor have I had any issues using this pen within my previous Hobonichi cousin. So, having used that pen and ink combination for many, many months before, I can say that the lines of this page are more or less true to how this pen and ink have always performed. On the very next page, as I'm planning ahead, you might be able to see that my writing on the exact same paper using the same pen and the same ink blooms all over this page. So that while it looks like, yes, I'm writing with a Japanese medium fine on this page, it looks like I'm writing with a broad on this page. And as a work planner that I need to be quick, easy, functional, It's frustrating when I'm flipping back, I'm flipping forward, I'm trying to see what my upcoming tasks, meetings, deadlines are, and I'm finding it hard to read my own handwriting because it has bloomed all over the place. For the very first time using tomoe river paper, I've experienced significant bleed through onto the next pages. So again, I'm trying to write my appointments on the left-hand side, and where I've marked off my work tasks in the Alistair method on the previous page, all of that is creating dots and blots on my weekly spread, and again, making it very difficult to read at a glance what meetings I have coming up and with whom. I think if it wasn't for the paper quality issues, I may have had a much better time using my Hobonichi weeks than I have. And as much benefit as I've derived from having organizing tracking systems this year, it was really frustrating to know that I spent over $40 for each of these books, and yet I was almost no better off than writing in any free Collins planner that my work provides. What added insult to injury was that when early users who received these books in September began testing out their pens, maybe setting up a couple of spreads, when they reported their concerns about the paper quality, Hobonichi brushed aside a lot of those complaints in ways that I think isn't hyperbolic to describe as gaslighting. I know that term is overused a lot to almost mean anything and everything when someone disagrees with you, but in the truest sense of that word, there's definitely an element in which many of us felt gaslighted by Hobonichi's initial response to those emerging complaints. They said they contacted Sanzen, and Sanzen told them that there were no issues. And rather than believing their users who don't have a vested financial interest in maintaining a partnership, they seem to have taken Sanzen at their word and claimed that it was us users who were misusing the paper or using the wrong pens with the paper. And that's why we were seeing bleed through, which was honestly quite a bold insult to the people who have been dedicated, loyal followers of Hobonichi years before I discovered Hobonichi, who know what pens and inks perform well in these papers and had used them with absolutely no issue for many years before they received this latest batch. To Hobonichi's credit, after the crescendo of complaints came in so hard and so fast that they could no longer deny that there weren't paper performance issues, they did issue a survey that allowed people who had purchased the 5-year Hobonichi Techo with bad paper to return it for a refund. It's also sad that I know a lot of people felt like they had missed the boat, because for the people who bought the 5-year Techo, as well as many people who bought the January start for 2025, you may have received the book in mid-September, but you weren't writing in it in earnest until January the 1st, if not a few days into the new year. And so some people didn't really discover that they had a bad batch of paper until maybe halfway or towards the end of January. And then they felt like, well, what's the point of sending it back and getting a new planner if then it means I end up losing all the memories and everything that I have tracked for the past month? People who, like me, had received bad paper in the Hobonichi weeks, despite these costing a pretty penny, we were not offered the opportunity to return these for a new book or for a refund. And it was very sad to see that other small businesses, like Sterling Inc., is one that comes to mind, who had also experienced bad batches of the Tomoe River Sanzen paper, that they did issue refunds and replacements to their customers. at what would have been, I can only imagine, an astronomical financial and personal cost to those small business owners. While meanwhile, you have a publicly listed company refusing to take accountability and make amends with their dedicated, committed followers. So now, while it has been a positive turn of events that Hobonichi has accepted that there are paper issues, they did actually address this a few days ago in one of their earliest discussions in the interview with the CEO. And he explicitly acknowledged that there were paper issues, although he's still towing the corporate line that they contacted Sanzen and Sanzen assured them that everything was fine with the paper and they took them at their word. And it's just this kind of roundabout way where they say, oh, but nevertheless, we acknowledge that people were not happy with the paper. And I personally accept it as it is for now. Maybe I shouldn't, but I completely empathize and respect the people who have felt so burned by that, who experienced a sense of betrayal and have now completely gone off Hobonichi, or at least are watching and waiting with a lot more skepticism and criticality than I'm bringing into my relationship with a brand. So far, and as I said, as I'm filming this, the 5th of August, I haven't seen potential announcements, discussions that may have come out from the company by the time you see this video. There have been a couple of announcements from the company that give me serious pause. One of the things that Hobonichi has teased for 2026 is that they are releasing an app to complement the analog ecosystem of their planners. There are a couple of screenshots of the app. It looks perfectly sweet. I wonder if it's going to be something very similar to an app that I use every day and have had for the last 6 years or so called Day One, which is a way of keeping and logging digital notes and journal entries on your phone. The app is currently slated to be released to Japan, so domestically around September, and it will be released globally in December later this year. And I've personally signed up for announcements via their newsletter, so I look forward to seeing how it plays out. But one of the things in the teaser article was to say that there's going to be an option to print pictures from your phone that are formatted for the grid sizes of the Hobonichi planners so that perhaps you could paste into a blank monthly spread pictures for day by day that represents all the lovely but mundane moments of your quotidian life. However, they mentioned that that feature would only be available for a Premium Plus membership. So I took a little bit more of a closer look into what that entails, and it appears that Hobonichi is designing a subscription model so that you can sign up for a Premium Plus on top of otherwise the basic features of that app being free. And part of those premium features would involve allowing you to print pictures from your phone and getting stickers. I'm not sure if they're going to mail the prints to you or whether perhaps Hobonichi is designing a sticker printer or some way where maybe even the app could interface with existing pocket sticker printers and you can print your photographs to paste in your Hobonichis. I am very wary about that because I think it is a move that I'm not sure is in the best interests. Well, I should say I know isn't in the best interests of users, but is absolutely in the best interests of shareholders to move into subscription systems. So, in addition to buying an $80 planner, I will also need to spend a monthly subscription fee to have an app act as an ecosystem to speak with and enhance my use of these products. Of course, the app wouldn't be compulsory. And for many of us drawn to Hobonichi, we love the analog planning. We love the tactile feel of these onion skin papers and the stunning crinkle that they provide when page by page is filled up with fountain pen inks. Maybe many of us would not be terribly interested in the app or download the free version and are perfectly content to use that for a little bit of digital note taking in order to aid our memory keeping when, let's say, we want to backfill later in a week. But I am very concerned with corporations in general moving to subscription models and what that means for existing loyal users who are already paying money for their products, who might be locked out of experiences that demand a more regular extraction of funds. A few days before they began teasing the new Hobonichi 2026 releases, there was a small announcement on their website that they will no longer be offering a free shipping threshold. Previously, the free shipping threshold was quite high. I believe last year in Australia, you needed to spend something like $470 or $480 in order to get free shipping. I was nowhere close, but I did still end up spending $300 on my Hobonichi products last year. Had I had friends here in my local city, in real life, who love Hobonichi as much as I do, I would have absolutely gone in on a shared order in hopes of reaching the free shipping threshold because I spent $50 on shipping. This year, I do know people in real life who love Hobonichi, who I believe would not need much convincing to go in on a shared order with me. But now that they've removed the free shipping option, we are all, I guess, back to making individual orders without that incentive to combine our orders with the hopes of lowering our costs, but also ideally the carbon footprint. They have continued to stick with their global trading partner. So I will still be locked in into paying Australian dollars. And I believe the price increases that was applied after I had made my order last year, as well as any new price hikes that might be coming in this year, all of those are going to be something that I would have to live with if I'm planning to still stick with Hobonichi. And that is to say, I will be sticking with Hobonichi in this coming month, unless something dramatically changes. I have had a insightful and instructive 8 months using these planners, and I want to go back to giving the Hobonichi cousin another good go in 2026. Me testing the waters with Hobonichi Weeks did not seem to work very well and has left a bad taste in my mouth because of the paper issues this year. So I will not be repurchasing a Hobonichi Weeks. Given their price tag, I am not comfortable spending another $300 on planners and covers and accessories. So I will be retiring my Hobonichi Weeks systems and instead going back to trying the trackers, the task lists that have worked well for me in here and finding a way to format them within the Hobonichi cousin. What I would love to continue with is my Hobonichi Techo original as a daily journal for my toddler. I recently watched a video from Alejandra who shared all the incredible journals that her mother kept for her, from finding out that she was pregnant with her, through to her childhood, through to her teenage years. And I was so incredibly touched and moved by her story and this tender bond that her and her mother have because of now their shared love for stationery and journals. I would love to be able to keep up with this practice of having a third Hobonichi Techo original to add to this collection of baby books. Who knows if my son will grow up to love stationery as much as Alejandra does, But I will always credit my baby book with helping me find my feet as a mother and helping me find my way back to myself by reconnecting with my love of fountain pens, writing, memory keeping, creative expression through postnatal anxiety and depression. So, Hobonichi for me isn't just some other retailer that I walk in to get some sort of functional product. And perhaps I am just as prone to marketing manipulation as the next person. But because of this tender relationship and meaning that Hobonichi has had in my life as a new mother, I feel a sense of investment in this brand. So I'm not quite ready to burn that bridge just yet. I hope to make a more modest order, one cousin, one A6 techo, hold off on excessive accessories, covers, stickers, and all the other accoutrements that feature in the Hobonichi store, and see if the paper performance will last throughout 2026. As much as I have absolutely adored Yumi Kitagishi, looking at her art every single day over the past year, I also feel satiated with the lovely things that I already own of her works. And if I need to reuse this cover or the beautiful Mina Pahonen cover that I purchased in the Tobichi store in Tokyo, I would rather do that than to purchase a new cover simply because I'm swept up into the excitement and the false scarcity of it being the limited edition for 2026 with fears and anxieties that it will sell out within the week if I don't snap it up immediately. Because I do house my toddler journals, baby journals, in their little covers, I will keep these on my shelves as they are, and I will allow myself to buy another A6 cover. And these may be my infamous last words. And the next time you see me talk about Hobonichi, maybe I'm opening up another $300 order and feeling the same sense of emptiness and anticlimactic. Oh, is that what I spent $350 on? Great. That I felt last year. And I didn't have this YouTube community in order to process a lot of those feelings with. So I'm determined this year to go into Hobonichi season with more level headedness, more clarity, and indeed, as I always try to practice on this channel, self compassion. If they announce a couple of covers that I do genuinely fall head over heels for, maybe I'll allow myself to purchase an extra A5 cover with the hopes that, hey, next year I could always reuse those covers or have an extra cover to house my cousins going forward or any other A5 book, like my Midori books, which have never let me down. And I could indeed keep a blank notebook inside as a memory keeper, scrapbook, junk journal, wherever it is that my heart and my inspiration takes me. But I wanted to take a big, deep collective breath with you all at the start of August 2025 and say that I hope to go into this coming Hobonichi season with a lot more intentionality and criticality. I would love to hear in the comment section below if you care to share what are your thoughts and feelings around Hobonichi 2026. Are you new to the brand or have you been a loyal follower since long before YouTubers like myself even knew the name Hobonichi? How did you navigate their paper issues in this past year? Has that completely soured your experience with a company? Or are you like me, cautiously optimistic about giving them another chance? Or have you not cared at all? And you are just as passionately committed to this brand as you always have been? What covers are you excited to see as they start teasing their lineup in the coming week? I would love to hear any and all of your reflections in the comments below. I have to confess that in the past few weeks, I've been having not only mixed feelings about Hobonichi, but I've also been having some mixed feelings about having a YouTube channel. I have loved every minute of building this community and this connection with all of you. But I am feeling the hamster wheel of fitting this hobby into an otherwise very busy life in which I'm trying to juggle a full-time academic role, trying to be there, be present for my son, and make more happy family memories, and not to say no to those events so that I could catch up in my journals or film another video or edit something so that it could come out. It's not my first time through the year that I go through a more fragile period where I really wonder what all of this is for at the cost of having a more sacredly private hobby that I could savor without having the pressure of showing up week after week. I do want to continue to ask myself those questions, to interrogate reflexively my own inclinations, my own tendencies, my own frailties as a human being who has so appreciated the people who have subscribed to my channel, who stick around, who share kind and encouraging comments week after week, even as I'm questioning whether or not I have the energy and the capacity to keep making videos. So thank you to all of you for being here. I really sincerely mean this when I say I couldn't do this without you. And I hope this video today has resonated with your own thinking about Hobonichi planners and planners in general. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, so please don't hesitate to share. Next week, I am quite excited to undertake a much needed desk reorganization. So you see me in this carefully curated mise en scène of my planners, these beautiful stickers, which I got from JP Pen and Ink from my Southeast Queensland Journal Keepers Club, this lovely little crane scissor that I have on my desk, inking stamp, all of that. But if I actually took my camera up for you a little bit higher, look at the mess. Okay, that's everything that's out of frame on my desk at the moment. And it means that while my videos get this cute little cozy journaling nook, it doesn't feel like a cozy journaling nook when I'm actually sitting down amongst the chaos of this table. So I hope to give you a little look into my whole reorganization process. And hopefully that will be one step in which I get a little bit closer to healing some potential content creation burnout. If rather than setting up my desk for filming, I can genuinely, authentically set up my desk for writing, for grounding, relaxing, reflection. So I hope you'll join me for that video. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Take very good care of yourself. Until then, bye bye.